A report from the Attorney General in New York confirms Governor Andrew Cuomo did sexually harass at least 11 women. Some of these women claim that not only was he saying inappropriate things or making inappropriate advancements, but some women say that he actually touched them inappropriately. In one instance, a woman who made that accusation had her claim rebutted by Cuomo, saying it wasn't true, and then a photo emerged in which he is literally grabbing her whole head, which seems to be rather inappropriate. Now, following this, there have been calls for the resignation of Andrew Cuomo and his impeachment, but Cuomo has issued a very strange response saying it's not true, going on to say that he will not be resigning. He refuses to leave office and then claims that he actually does this to everyone, regardless of whether or not they're a man, woman, gay or straight, old or young. He says he's just grabbing their faces and kissing them because that's what you do, I guess. Now, here's the thing. He's not entirely wrong. Could it be that women interpreted his Italian family style contact with sexually inappropriate behavior? Yeah, maybe. But come on, he was told to stop. Other women have claimed that he actually touched them in seriously inappropriate ways, like touching their bodies. So I'm not going to give Cuomo a pass on this one. He's been accused by a lot of women. There are photos of him grabbing people. I don't care if he grabs everybody. It seems like he really did cross the line. But I'll tell you what does. Well, I was going to say shock me, but it doesn't really shock me, but disappoints me. This is why they're demanding his resignation. This is why they're demanding his impeachment. And I can look at this and say, all right, the man should probably resign or be impeached. But my question is, what about the 15,000 or so people the dude literally murdered? Yeah, about that. Yeah, Cuomo gets away with that. At the very least, they're going to get rid of him. So it's a very challenging question of whether or not the ends justify the means. Well, in this instance, I think the dude should resign or be impeached over these harassment allegations. And with the New York Attorney General basically saying, we confirm this happened. Okay, then the dude should resign. Get out, bro. Nobody wants you. The Republicans don't like you. The Democrats don't like you. You got no allies. You're done. Go bye-bye. And if you won't, impeach the guy. But can we seriously get some more inquiry and investigation and outrage over the fact that Cuomo put sick people into a nursing home, killing like 15,000 people? Janice Dean of Fox News has been pushing that for some time. We interviewed her on the Timcast IRL podcast, and it seems like Cuomo is going to walk on that one. So if there was any other issue, or if they didn't confirm the harassment, I'd say, nah, I don't care about this. This is petty allegations. Investigate them, fine. But he should have been impeached a long time ago. The Democrats didn't do it. And New York doesn't have a strong enough Republican apparatus to actually get this man out of office. Well, I'll tell you this. If you had impeached the guy over the fact that he put sick people in nursing homes, maybe this wouldn't even be an issue right now. But at this point, I'll accept the removal of a depraved lunatic. Now, on top of this story is the media malfeasance story, because it turns out his brother Chris Cuomo of CNN actually helped craft a message to deny the allegations that are now asserted by the AG as true. Amazing. Well, let's talk about this. I'm actually going to do something interesting. I'm going to provide a potential defense for Cuomo. Now, let me clarify. I don't think the man is right. I think he did assault these women, or I'm sorry, harass them. Some women claim to have been assaulted, and I err on the side of not believing him. There's a probe. He got his due process in his own state. He will reap what he has sown, but there is something to be said about what's happening in the workplace based on certain behaviors that could be interpreted incorrectly. And we'll get into that. But let's get started with this first story from ABC News. However, before we do get started, head over to timcast.com to become a member and get access to exclusive members-only content, as well as an advertisement-free experience. When you become a member at Timcast, you help support our fierce and independent journalism. And you may have seen the media is terrified of our explosive and rampant growth. It's kind of funny to see all the articles that came up recently talking about me with all these accusations and allegations. Here we go, baby. We have launched a website. It is a beautiful website. It's well designed, and we've got a bunch of great people coming on writing stories. So I'll tell you this. Certainly, they are unhappy, the establishment. They don't like the competition, and that's all thanks to you. So become a member, but don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share the show with your friends if you really do think this stuff is important. Let's talk about the big political scandal wreaking havoc on the Democratic Party. From ABC News, Governor Cuomo sexually harassed multiple women. New York Attorney General probe finds. ABC News reports. New York State Attorney General Letitia James announced Tuesday morning after a 4-month probe into the allegations. In at least one instance, the investigation determined that the governor sought to retaliate against a woman who leveled accusations against him, identified in a report released by the AG's office as Lindsay Boylan. According to James, the probe found that Cuomo and his staff fostered a toxic work environment. Cuomo, in a statement released after James' announcement, denied any wrongdoing. The Attorney General's 168-page report released during her press conference determined that, quote, the governor engaged in conduct constituting sexual harassment under federal and New York state law. Quote, specifically, we find the governor sexually harassed a number of current and former New York state employees by, among other things, engaging in unwelcome and non-consensual touching, as well as making numerous offensive comments of a suggestive and sexual nature that created a hostile work environment for women. At Tuesday's press conference, employment discrimination attorney Ann Clark, one of the investigators assigned to lead the probe, presented a litany of findings from the report, including specific examples of the governor making suggestive comments and engaging in unwanted touching that 11 women, some named, others anonymous, found deeply humiliating and offensive. In an instance involving one of Cuomo's unnamed executive assistants, the governor was found to have reached under her blouse and grabbed her breast, according to a report. The same woman also recounted a circumstance in which the governor moved his hand to grab her butt cheek and began to rub it. The rubbing lasted at least 5 seconds, the report said. In another instance, the report describes how Cuomo harassed a state trooper assigned to his protective detail, including by running his hand across her stomach from her belly button to her right hip while she held a door open for him at an event, and running his finger down her back from the top of her neck, from her neck down her spine to the middle of her back, saying, "Hey, you," while she was standing in front of him at an elevator. In his televised statement issued Tuesday afternoon in response to the report, Cuomo said that the facts are much different than what has been portrayed and gave no indication that he would heed calls for his resignation. It has also been reported by other outlets he's refusing. I want you to know directly from me that I never touched anyone inappropriately or made inappropriate advances, he said. That's not who I am. Cuomo addressed 2 of his accusers, including Charlotte Bennett, who Cuomo insisted he was trying to help through a prior incident of harassment. Cuomo said Bennett drew inferences I never meant and ascribed motives I never had. Now that's interesting. And I do think we should actually discuss that and explore that. However, I'm not a fan of Cuomo. I don't trust him. I think he's lying in this regard, but there is something interesting about the moral conundrum of behaviors that differ between men and women and what is and isn't acceptable. First, however, I'd like to point something out from Politico. On July 24th, Politico reported, Cuomo said Attorney General probe would clear him. Now his aides say it's political. Interesting. Perhaps they saw this one coming. Perhaps some questions arose in the summary of this investigation, and the Cuomo administration knew that he was going to be implicated beyond just the accusations that the probe was going to find. He did this. That's right. That's how the media goes, right? This guy was given advanced warning by the news outlets, or someone leaked to him and he got advanced word. Okay. What do you think Governor Cuomo's response to this was? How could he possibly defend engaging in this behavior, reaching into a woman's shirt, putting his hand down her back? Come on, man. There are lines, right? Well, interestingly, Cuomo said that, okay, maybe this isn't the right one. I think it's right here, actually. Here we go. He said, quote, I actually learned it from my mother and from my father. I do it with everyone, black and white, young and old, straight and LGBTQ, powerful people, friends, strangers, people who I meet on the street, he said. I do kiss people on the forehead. I do embrace people. I do hug people, men and women. I do on occasion say ciao Bella. On occasion, I do slip and say sweetheart. I am the same person in public as I am in private. I do not completely believe that. The excuse is, but I touch everyone that way. only confirms that he was touching people without their consent. Welcome to the world you helped create, Cuomo. Your policies, your lines. The Democratic Party crafted this world where there is no such thing as friendly touching. Everybody is so on edge. Everything is turned up to 11. And this is what you have helped create. And now it's come back to haunt you, I suppose. So let me just stress, Cuomo confesses to inappropriately touching people. And let me just say this. If Cuomo came up to me and he put his hands on me and said, hey, nice to meet you, I'd be like, dude, not okay. Don't touch me. I don't like you. So how many people was he like, it's being friendly, just touching people? And I'll tell you this, man. If I go to an event and say there's a woman, and she walks up and she puts her hand on my shoulder and says, it's nice to meet you. I'm a big fan of your work. And that's it. I'm not going to freak out about it. If I go to an event and a woman puts her hands on my elbow and then she says, nice to meet you. And then she goes in and does the kiss on the cheek. I'm not going to complain about it. I'm not going to freak out about it. Furthermore, if it was a dude who did it, I still wouldn't complain about it. I'm like, whatever. These customs exist. Have you ever been to Europe? Well, Cuomo needs to understand the world we live in. Would I in the workplace ever do that? No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't complain about it if someone did it to me, but I'm certainly not going to be grabbing women's faces or anything like that. That's insane. So here we have Cuomo effectively admitting to this. He does touch people. Now, the weirdest thing is that in this TV presentation, he's actually like showing photos of him grabbing and kissing people. And it's like, did you think that confessing to the allegations was going to clear you of wrongdoing? Am I supposed to be like, oh, I get what he was doing? Nah, sorry. So let's address this idea. Now, I do want to talk about the more important issue, which is Cuomo murdering all of these people. And I want to talk about the calls for his impeachment, which is now bubbling up from Democrats. They want his resignation. They want his impeachment. And it's going to get, well, I think it may get a bit spicy. We also got to talk about his brother and the conflict of interest and call out CNN. But there is something that needs to be said here. And I would certainly preface it by saying, as I already did, I'm not going to touch anybody in the workplace ever for any reason. I mean, I got to be honest. If someone's like choking, okay, I'll perform the Heimlich maneuver. But short of that, a handshake is what you get. Some people, if they're friends of me and they want a hug, okay, you'll get a hug. But I'll tell you, I've mentioned this before. If a man walks into the workplace, run-of-the-mill dude, frat bro guy, gets a job at Wall Street, and his boss sees his new well-tailored suit, and he goes, "Whoa, look at that suit, looking sharp, man. That's an amazing suit. You're killing it. Wow. Also, geez, have you been working out? You're looking cut. Lost some weight, huh?" Pats him on the shoulder, walks away. Nothing. That's like normal dude behavior. Guy walks up and is like, "Man, you get a haircut? That's excellent. You're looking great, man. You lost a little weight. I'm impressed. You've been doing really great here, and we appreciate it." You pat him on the shoulder. You walk away. Now imagine that same scenario with a woman. The woman walks in wearing a dress, and the guy goes, "Whoa, looking good. Is that a new dress? Wow, you're killing it. You must be working out too, losing a little bit of weight." Yeah, we already know where that's going. Now, of course, a dude can complain and say that's harassment as well. That I understand. But for the most part, dudes, it's not an issue. Today it is. I would say today, based on this standard, yeah, you can't say those things to guys anymore either. You can't be like, "Looking good, man. You're losing weight. You get a haircut. You get new suits." You can't say any of it. Cuomo, went the other direction. Cuomo could have said, "I'm going to stop kissing people." Instead, he was like, "I'm going to keep kissing people, including women." He should not have done that. There's one photo that there's no point pulling it up for the most part, I guess. You understand. It's the one where he's grabbing that woman's head. And yeah, so let me just stress that this is Cuomo saying, "I do kiss people on the forehead, embrace people. I hug people." There's a photo. I'm pretty sure he's kissing people on the cheek. You call someone sweetheart, grab them by the face and kiss them on the cheek. And don't be surprised when they accuse you. And then you know what? Why bother denying it when you'd come out and admit it? And there's photos of it, dude. Well, this is where we're at so far. We now have this. Pat Ward reports. Bill de Blasio says, quote, it is beyond clear that Andrew Cuomo is not fit to hold office and can no longer serve as governor. He must resign. And if he continues to resist and attack the investigators who did their jobs, he should be impeached immediately. Wow. I guess I'm going to have to go ahead and say I agree with Bill de Blasio. I agree, Bill de Blasio. And then we have this, Jack Posobiec pulling up the breaking release of an email. Here is the email from Chris Cuomo on February 28th, 2021 to the Andrew Cuomo Inner Circle, where he appears to have personally drafted a statement for his brother to respond to the allegations. In this email, we can see to Chris Cuomo on Sunday, February 28th, Chris Cuomo wrote, quote, "Questions have been raised about some of my past interactions with people in the office. I spend most of my life at work, and colleagues are often also personal friends. I never intended to offend anyone or cause any harm. Sometimes I am playful and make jokes. You have seen me do it at briefings hundreds of times. My only desire is to add some levity and banter to what is a very serious business. I now understand that my interactions may have been insensitive or too personal, and that some of my comments, given my position, made others feel in ways I never intended. I am sorry, and I feel deeply embarrassed about that. Separately, my office has heard anecdotally that some people have reached out to Ms. Bennett to express displeasure about her coming forward. My message to anyone doing that is that you have misjudged what matters to me and my administration, and you should stop now, period." To which Josh Viasto said, "I can't seems to dial back in." I don't know what that's a reference to. Probably they were in a conference call and responded to this email saying, "I can't seems to dial back in." And that's just, I got to say, like the seems that with the S on it, that is just awfully stereotypical. Like, you know, what is this? Goodfellas. It is Cuomo brothers. It is conflict of interest. And CNN did nothing about it because this is the name of the game. The haves and have-nots, the rules for thee, but not for me. From LA Times, CNN won't discipline Chris Cuomo for advising his brother to fight harassment allegations. Why not? Now, look, I understand family. I understand you want to be there for family. But my question is, you have to set barriers, draw the line. They can say, listen, you're either going to be family on this one or you're not going anywhere near this story. Now, Chris Cuomo apologized, but I'm sick of it. Chris Cuomo faked being in quarantine. Let me stress that again. As a statement of fact, Chris Cuomo of CNN and CNN, as a company, they staged his quarantine in his basement. We know from a report and by his own admission, he was out far away when someone saw him and said, "Aren't you supposed to be quarantined?" And he got in his face, went on his radio show, and admitted to the whole thing. CNN produced overt fake news and was caught. And where was any kind of penalty, punishment, call out, accountability? Nothing. And here we go again. Chris Cuomo goes on TV during the pandemic with these stupid, ridiculous, pop-up. This stupid, ridiculous Q-tip cotton swab. For those who are listening on the podcast, there was a pop-up on the screen. And nothing happens. No penalty, no punishment, no accountability. The dude is still getting his cushy job. In May 20th, it was reported CNN primetime star Chris Cuomo won't face any discipline for having participated in strategy sessions on how his brother should deal with the harassment allegations, a decision that's causing some blowback against the news channel. You know, it's not just CNN. There's a bunch of other things of this nature. We have, Glenn Greenwald tweeted, said, "The Cuomo brothers aren't the only people ever to face the conflict of being a journalist with a family member in politics. He says, my husband is a member of Congress. The difference is I would never purport to interview him or pretend I was anything but loyal and supportive spouse. Chris Hayes' wife worked in the Obama White House. David Stroda's wife is an elected official in the Colorado State Legislature. Lots of other examples. It's not easy, but you just have to be honest and not fraudulently pretend you're reporting on them. CNN did it the worst way possible." And also, I'm not sure that Glenn Greenwald's husband was in office when they got married. He's a journalist, and I think he got elected after the fact, but I could be wrong. Either way, I have no problem with people having family members in Congress and working in media, so long as they aren't engaging in a conflict of interest, like Cuomo does and gets away with it. And Andrew Cuomo kills people and gets away with it. Which brings us to Glenn Greenwald's next tweet. "The relevant question for Democratic politicians is not whether they think Cuomo should resign. That's irrelevant and easy. The only question that matters, if, as appears likely, he refuses to resign, should the Democratic-controlled New York State Legislature impeach him?" That was at 1:49 p.m. Well, at 1:31 p.m., we heard from Pat Ward. Bill de Blasio said he must resign or be impeached immediately. Okay. Bill de Blasio Not a big fan. Actually just criticized him over his mandates. I agree. 100% agree. And I'll accept this. And here we go. From the Hill. Democrats renew calls for Cuomo to resign over harassment findings. Multiple Democrats in New York State legislature are renewing their calls for his resignation or for him to be impeached after the investigation. New York Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart, in a statement following the release of the investigation's findings, called Cuomo's behavior unacceptable and said he can no longer serve as governor. She said he should resign for the good of the state. This report highlights unacceptable behavior by Governor Cuomo and his administration. As I said, when these disturbing allegations first came to light, the governor must resign for the good of the state. Now that the investigation is complete and the allegations have been sustained, it should be clear to everyone that he can no longer serve as governor, she wrote. State Senator Kevin Thomas sounded a similar note, calling on Cuomo to step down immediately. Independent investigators under the direction of New York State Attorney General Letitia James have concluded that Governor Cuomo harassed multiple women, violating federal and state law. I call on the governor to step down immediately. Violating federal and state law? Well, bring the weight of federal and state law upon him. Fine him, sue him, do what you have to do. Why are we tolerating this from Cuomo? The independent inquiry launched by New York Attorney General Letitia James released its finding on Tuesday and concluded what we know. They go on to say that there are more renewed calls. New York State Assembly members Emily Gallagher and Zoran Mamdani both called for Cuomo to be impeached following the release of the investigation's findings. Now I want to slow down here a little bit and bring you over to a good old May 20th, 2020 article from PolitiFact. May 20th, 2020. Quote from Andrew Cuomo. Why did the state do that with COVID patients in nursing homes? It's because the state followed President Trump's CDC guidance. Mostly false. Wow. PolitiFact said it was mostly false. PolitiFact is not known for being in opposition to Democrats. So when they come out and they say a Democrat is lying, wow, it must be very obvious this guy is lying. And they say if your time is short, New York's nursing home policy was not fully in line with the CDC. The Cuomo administration issued an advisory March 25th that stated that nursing homes must comply with the expedited receipt of residents coming from hospitals, regardless of whether they are infected with the new coronavirus. The CDC warned nursing homes to keep COVID-19 out of their facilities and said nursing homes can admit coronavirus patients, but only if they are able to properly care for them. The Cuomo administration says that regulations that predate the pandemic require nursing homes to admit only those patients for which they can care. However, in the month following the March 25th advisory, nursing home operators felt they had no choice but to accept these patients. So there we are. Cuomo, according to some reports, was trying to obfuscate what he had done. Data was being hidden, and we learned that not only was he warned, if you put these people, sick patients, into nursing homes, you will kill people. And he said, do it. I don't care. Why? As I have to mention, probably because with the Mercy vessel available, the medical ship, and the Javits Center, Trump would be given all the credit. Oh, you can't have that. Cuomo said, send them to the nursing homes. We saw what happened in some circumstances where an old man was brutally beaten, and I think it was in Michigan. These politicians, these Democratic governors, should have been forcibly removed and placed in handcuffs. Cuomo instructed this. And people warned him, and he didn't care. And this is what really I find to be the most disturbing and disgusting of this whole fiasco, is that Cuomo should have been resigned for this a long time ago. But he's not been. Instead, it's the metoo allegations that generate more rage from the press. This should say everything to you, my friends. The Democratic Party has long been the party of wealthy elites. And I say long been because it's been a long time. I'm not going to pretend like it's been generations. You know, I can't. Well, actually, no. I guess the Democratic Party has been the party of the wealthy elites. Certainly, there are wealthy industrialists on the Republican side as well. I'm not going to pretend like Republicans haven't been corporatist in the past. Republicans deserve no defense here either. It's not like they do anything. But the Democratic Party here, what happens? When it was Cuomo killing the elderly and the poor, what do they care? It's not affecting them. It doesn't affect their country clubs or their Long Island properties. No. They care when it offends their delicate sensibilities. When it's offensive to the women who work for the state. When Cuomo offends those who work for the state, they come after him. It's not too dissimilar to what we see with Antifa. Of the rioters, the Antifa and Black Lives Matter rioters who have actually been charged, arrested, and are facing trial or been convicted, how many of them were the people who attacked small businesses? Very few, if any. How many of them were the people who attacked government buildings? A lot more. And not even all that many, to be completely honest. We saw the siege on the Portland Federal Building, and the Democrats say, for the most of these people just sitting around doing whatever, we don't care. When they attack cops, we don't care. There was a guy on video seen struggling with and fighting police. Cut him loose. But what about the lady who set fire to the police station? They went after her. What about some of the people who are actually engaged in setting fire to other police buildings and government buildings? They go after them. I believe the man who was seen setting fire to the police precinct in Minnesota, he got the book thrown at him. Because we are in, right now, my friends, anarcho-tyranny. And this is a great example, and you need to understand. If we don't get some change, some reform, then we are doomed. Because I'll tell you, outside of all of the political conflict, outside of the culture war and the divide, we have regular Americans watching as the laws will be enforced against them, but not against the elites. And only when the elite offends the other elites does anything actually get done. Anarcho-tyranny. They'll come to your house, they'll protest, they'll burn down your business, and the police will say, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do. But they show up to a politician's home. Well, then something happens. They can show up to the home of, or at least what they thought was the home of a potential witness in a murder trial. And what happens? A whole lot of nothing. They can stage hoaxes and claim all the stupidest things in the world, and they will get the entire media apparatus defending them. Cuomo can literally murder 15,000 people or so in these nursing homes. Because I tell you this, he had foreknowledge, he had the means, he had the motivation. And perhaps, you know what, I'll say this, perhaps murder is strong. Perhaps negligent homicide. I don't think his intent was to kill all of these people, but he knew his actions would lead in this direction, and he did it anyway. And he can do that. And he gets a free pass. And I can't believe it. That we have this story from over a year ago, from May of 2020, where we knew Cuomo was wrong about his nursing home policy. And then we learned later that he obfuscated the numbers. This is mid-pandemic. We know what's happening. We watch it. And still now, over a year later, the man, nothing. Until he offended the delicate sensibilities of the progressive left. In which case, here we are. Now, is it possible that Cuomo, let's speak to this, honestly, was actually just, being European-styled in the grab in the face and being like, thank you for coming to this, the day of my daughter's wedding, and then kissing on the cheek? Did he mean anything by it? It's entirely possible Cuomo did not. Now, there's stories about him reaching into the shirt of a woman and things like that. So, okay, I think we should definitely, talk about that. But it's entirely possible that in many of these circumstances, Cuomo was just being his, dopey normal self. And now we have the machine and how it works and how it backfires on people like Cuomo. So if you were to look at the situation, it's in my opinion, it's nothing but an indictment for the establishment elites and the establishment Democratic Party, the media, the overstate, the cathedral, whatever you want to call it. Because either Cuomo did this and they don't care about the nursing homes, or he didn't, but he ran afoul of the cult and the ideology. In which case, you can just see how awful things will be moving forward. It's become a clown show, a clown world, as it were. I bring you now to a world in which a politician could take action that directly results in the death of 10+ thousand people and will face no accountability, but he touches women's faces and immediately they recoil in horror. Anarcho-tyranny is real. To the people like Janice Dean, we had her on the show, we had her on IRL, who is fighting to get some accountability because it was her husband's parents, her in-laws, who died in nursing homes. I believe it was both. I could be wrong. Because of COVID. Where's the justice for Janice Dean? Where's the justice for all the people who saw what he did. There's no justice for you. What about the owners of the small businesses in places like Portland and Minneapolis? There was no justice for them. But when it comes to these women who work for the state, they complain about Cuomo and it serves a political purpose. Congratulations. You'll get your cause to advance forward. It's a horrifying reality to be in. And I certainly hope that there is reform and there is accountability moving forward. But I'm not confident. Not at all. My friends, the next segment is coming up tonight at youtube.com/TimcastIRL, where we are going to have Charlie Kirk of Turning Point USA and Socialist Vosh of YouTube. Several 100,000 subscribers to Charlie Kirk's millions, but they are going to be debating and discussing economic policy, critical race theory, among other things. You know what? I didn't really plan a whole lot for what we're going to do other than we're going to hang out and talk. And it'll be a great opportunity to see these ideas in real time. Now, of course, Vosh has said it's going to be 3 right-wingers versus 1. I don't know what he means by 3. I don't know if he's referring to Ian or Lydia. And sure, he can call me right-wing. I get it. But it's going to be interesting when we're both arguing with Charlie about universal health care, right? I don't know how that's going to play out. But perhaps it's because Vosh doesn't actually know my content and pays attention mostly to just out-of-context grifter clips. So this should be fascinating. I'm a moderate, centrist, rather libertarian, lean left on a lot of policy issues, don't like the Democratic Party. And we'll see how this one plays out. Should be a whole lot of fun. So make sure you check it out at youtube.com/TimcastIRL, and we'll see you there at 8 p.m.